Hello, please like, subscribe, and share for more content and help the channel grow. Let's get started.
In everyday situations we use some form of defense to protect ourselves. For example, a person who is in denial about their alcohol addiction may insist they don't have a problem despite experiencing negative consequences such as relationship strain or work-related issues due to their drinking. 2. A student who feels insecure about their academic abilities may accuse a classmate of cheating when they receive a lower grade on an exam, projecting their own fears of inadequacy onto others. 3. After being turned down for a job opportunity, an individual might rationalize the rejection by telling themselves that they didn't really want the job anyway or that the company's values didn't align with their own. 4. A normally independent adult who feels overwhelmed by stress at work may revert to childlike behaviors, such as seeking constant reassurance from a supervisor or withdrawing from responsibilities. 5. A person who experienced a traumatic car accident may have no memory of the event due to repression, even though witnesses confirm their involvement in the accident. 6. A worker who receives negative feedback from their boss may come home and take out their frustration by yelling at their spouse over a minor disagreement, displacing their anger from the work situation onto their partner. 7. Someone who experiences feelings of aggression may channel that energy into participating in a contact sport like boxing or martial arts, allowing them to express their impulses in a socially acceptable and constructive way. 8. A person diagnosed with a serious illness may focus solely on researching medical treatments and statistics, avoiding discussions about their emotional reactions to the diagnosis or the impact on their quality of life. These practical examples illustrate how defense mechanisms manifest in everyday life and how they can influence our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors in various situations. Recognizing these defense mechanisms can help individuals gain insight into their own coping strategies and seek support when needed. Defense mechanism is a psychological strategy that individuals unconsciously use to protect themselves from anxiety, emotional pain, or internal conflicts. These mechanisms operate at an unconscious level and serve to alleviate psychological distress by distorting reality, regulating emotions, or managing internal conflicts. Defense mechanisms are often adaptive in nature, helping individuals cope with stressful situations or threatening emotions. However, they can also become maladaptive if used excessively or rigidly, leading to difficulties in relationships, decision-making, and overall well-being. Defense mechanisms were first described by Sigmund Freud, the founder of psychoanalysis, who proposed that they operate to protect the ego, the conscious part of the mind, from the conflicts between the id, primitive desires, and the superego, internalized moral standards. Over time, psychologists have identified numerous defense mechanisms, each serving a unique purpose in managing psychological distress. Examples of defense mechanisms include denial, refusing to acknowledge reality; repression, unconsciously blocking out distressing thoughts or memories; projection, attributing one's own unacceptable feelings to others; rationalization, creating logical explanations for behavior; and displacement, redirecting emotions from a threatening target to a less threatening one, among others. Understanding defense mechanisms can provide insight into how individuals cope with stress and adversity. While defense mechanisms can offer temporary relief from emotional discomfort, addressing underlying issues and developing healthier coping strategies is often necessary for long-term psychological well-being. Some anime characters known for exhibiting significant defense mechanisms are 1. Sasuke Uchiha from Naruto. Sasuke exhibits various defense mechanisms, including repression and displacement, as coping mechanisms for his traumatic past. He represses memories of his family's murder and displaces his anger and desire for revenge onto others, particularly his brother Itachi and his former teammate Naruto. 2. Ayanami from Neon Genesis Evangelion. Rei displays repression as a defense mechanism, suppressing her emotions and memories to cope with her traumatic past and the emotional burden of being a clone. She often appears detached and emotionless as a result of her repressive coping strategy. 3. Omura Akemi from Puella Magi Madoka Magica. Hamura exhibits various defense mechanisms, including denial and rationalization, as she tries to protect herself and others from emotional pain. She denies the reality of her situation and rationalizes her actions as necessary sacrifices to save her friends, even if it means repeating the same tragic events. 4. Light Yagami from Death Note. Light demonstrates intellectualization and projection as defense mechanisms, justifying his actions as a means to create a utopian world and projecting his own sense of justice onto his alter ego, Kira. He intellectualizes his crimes as necessary for the greater good and projects his own desires onto the concept of justice. 5. Asuka Langley Soryu from Neon Genesis Evangelion. Asuka displays defense mechanisms such as projection and displacement, projecting her insecurities onto others and displacing her feelings of inadequacy onto her competitiveness and aggression. Her tough exterior and abrasive personality serve as defense mechanisms to shield herself from vulnerability. These characters showcase how defense mechanisms manifest in different ways within the context of anime, reflecting complex psychological struggles and coping strategies in their respective narratives. So in short, defense mechanisms are psychological strategies that our minds use to protect us from anxiety and distress. Here are some common defense mechanisms. 1. Denial. Denial involves refusing to accept reality or acknowledge the truth of a situation. For example, a person diagnosed with a terminal illness may deny their diagnosis and continue to believe they are perfectly healthy. 2. Projection. Projection involves attributing one's own unacceptable thoughts, feelings, or impulses to others. For instance, someone who struggles with feelings of jealousy may accuse their partner of being unfaithful, projecting their own insecurities onto them. 3. Rationalization. Rationalization involves creating logical explanations or justifications for behaviors, thoughts, or feelings that are otherwise unacceptable. For example, a student who fails an exam might rationalize their poor performance by blaming the difficulty of the test rather than acknowledging their lack of preparation. 4. Regression. Regression involves reverting to an earlier stage of psychological development in response to stress or conflict. For instance, an adult may regress to childlike behaviors, such as throwing tantrums or seeking excessive comfort, during times of extreme stress. 5. Repression. Repression involves unconsciously blocking out or suppressing memories, thoughts, or impulses that are too difficult or distressing to acknowledge. For example, a person who experienced childhood trauma may repress memories of the traumatic events to protect themselves from emotional pain. 6. Displacement. Displacement involves redirecting one's emotions or impulses from a threatening target to a less threatening one. For instance, a person who is angry with their boss may go home and take out their frustration on their family members instead. 7. Sublimation. Sublimation involves channeling socially unacceptable impulses or emotions into socially acceptable activities or behaviors. For example, someone with aggressive tendencies may channel their aggression into competitive sports or artistic pursuits. 8. Intellectualization. Intellectualization involves distancing oneself from an emotionally charged situation by focusing excessively on abstract thoughts or intellectualizing the problem. For instance, a person coping with the death of a loved one may focus solely on the medical details of the illness rather than allowing themselves to grieve. These defense mechanisms can serve as adaptive coping strategies in the short term, but they may also contribute to psychological difficulties if used excessively or inappropriately. It's important to recognize when defense mechanisms are at play and to seek support when needed to address underlying issues.